Our town is getting a new airport. The demolition crew has been going door to door, measuring houses and talking compensation. But I waited 3 whole months, and no one ever knocked on my door. It was only later that I found out, on the official blueprints. My plot of land had been deliberately drawn outside the demolition zone. Furious, I stormed right into the town hall, only to be told, "That's just the plan, nothing we can do about it." Seeing this, my neighbors even mocked me. "Well, look at you now. Enjoy rotting in that rundown house for the rest of your life." I didn't say a word. Instead, I emptied out my life savings, took out a massive loan, and scraped together 10 million. 6 months later, that old house was transformed into a 10-story building, proudly displaying the sign for the Cloud Hotel. And the sign at the entrance reading "No entry for non-paying guests" became the biggest eyesore in the entire airport area. The moment the news about the airport broke, our little town, ironically named Peaceful Town, was peaceful no more. Overnight, compensation payouts, relocation housing, and dreaming of a new life became the only things anyone could talk about. Amidst the frenzy of people dreaming of striking it rich, white vans stamped with demolition office would constantly shuttle back and forth along the town's dirt roads. The staff, armed with measuring tapes and clipboards, went door to door, measuring, registering, and negotiating. My name is Fu Cheng. I live at the far east end of town, holding down an old, weathered 2-story house. Ever since my parents passed away, I've lived here all alone. The very first day, the demolition van drove right past my front door. It didn't stop. I just figured they were starting from the west side of town, and hadn't gotten to me yet. By the first week, my neighbor, the Lee family, had reached a deal. Word on the street was they got a massive payout. They were grinning from ear to ear. Whenever he saw me, he'd yell out, "Hey, Ah Ching, your house has gotta be next, right?" I'd just smile and nod. By the end of the first month, the folks on the east side started signing their contracts too. Soon enough, almost every wall in town was painted with a big red demolish sign. Except for mine. My walls were still bare, dusty brick. I was starting to panic. Another 2 months went by. Most of the families in town had already packed up and left. A dark, sinking feeling crept into my chest. So, I marched straight down to the town hall, and tracked down the town mayor, Zheng Daqian. He was busy on the phone. When he saw me push the door open, he just rolled his eyes in annoyance. "What do you want?" he grunted. I stepped forward and asked, "Mayor Zheng, I need to ask about the airport demolition. Why was my house left out?" Hearing that, Zheng Daqian finally took his sweet time putting the phone down. He pulled a massive blueprint out of his desk drawer, pointed at it, and said, "Take a look for yourself." I leaned in closer. My heart dropped into my stomach. I traced the red boundary line on the map, and saw it slicing right past the very edge of my courtyard wall, like a sharp, deliberate blade. My little 2-story house was left out there like a forgotten island, totally abandoned outside the demolition zone. I stared at that glaring red line, my voice shaking. What is the meaning of this? There has to be some mistake." Zheng Daqian's voice was completely ice cold, lacking even a shred of empathy. "There's no mistake. That's exactly how the plans were drawn up. Our hands are tied. I couldn't just let it go. But why is the entire town getting torn down, except for my house? Why am I the only one left out?" Zheng Daqian suddenly raised his voice, throwing his political weight around. "I already told you. This was decided by the urban planning experts up top. What do you expect me to do about it? Look, I'm done here. I have a meeting to get to. Just go back." After saying that, he walked straight out of the office. The moment I stepped through my front door, I ran right into my neighbor Lee. She was directing the movers, loading her furniture onto the truck piece by piece. Seeing my devastated look, a gloating smirk crept across her face. She opened her mouth and asked, "Hey Ching, did you go ask them?" Hearing this, I didn't say a word. Seeing my silence, she curled her lip. "I told you so. Your house's location is a lost cause. They're building an airport, and your place is right on the edge. It's not in the way. So why would they demolish it and pay you off? What a bad deal for them." Just then, another neighbor strolled over and mocked. "Well, look at that. Soon, you'll be the only family left in the whole town. Have fun guarding this broken down house for the rest of your life. With the airport all around you, the noise alone will drive you crazy." Auntie Lee laughed even harder. He chimed in, "Isn't that the truth? While the rest of us are living it up in new city apartments, Ching will still be out here sniffing airplane exhaust." Those piercing laughs stabbed into my ears like needles. But I didn't argue with them. I just slowly raised my head, quietly looking at the little house I grew up in. Finally, the moving trucks roared away. I stood alone on the empty street, pulled out my phone, and made a call. "Hello, Su Wan? It's me, Fu Qing." Su Wan's gentle voice came through the phone. She asked in confusion, "Hey Qing, what made you call me out of the blue?" I paused for a moment and said, "I want to ask you about getting a loan. Su Wan is my childhood best friend. She studied finance in college and is now an account manager at a bank in the city." Su Wan sounded a bit surprised. "A loan? Hey Qing, did something happen?" I answered in a calm tone. "Nothing's wrong. I just want to renovate my old family home." Su Wan was even more puzzled. She pressed on, "Renovate? Now? I heard your town is building an airport and everything is getting demolished, right?" I briefly explained the situation to her. "My house isn't in the demolition zone." The other end of the line went quiet for a moment. Then, with a hint of anger, Su Wan said, "Isn't that just bullying? How could the planning map be so perfectly drawn? To bypass only your house?" I said calmly, "It doesn't matter if it's a coincidence anymore." Su Wan pressed further. "Then what are you going to do? Just sit there and guard that old house?" I looked out the window at the empty land and answered word by word. "No, I'm going to tear it down and rebuild it." Hearing this, Su Wan stayed silent for a long time before saying, "Hey Qing, are you sure about this? This is not a small amount of money." I answered firmly, "I'm sure." "How much do you need?" "I have 200,000 in savings. From what my parents left me and what I've saved up over the years. I want to borrow another 300,000, making it 500,000 in total." Hearing this number, Su Wan on the other end of the line gasped, 500,000? Ah Qing, are you crazy? You're just rebuilding your own house. Do you really need that much money? What I'm building is no ordinary house. My eyes locked onto the massive outline of the planned airport in the distance. In the future, it's going to be packed with endless crowds and business travelers. And my house is the closest one to the airport, making it the only private building there in the future. I asked Su Wan, "What do you think about opening a hotel right next to the new airport? How are the prospects?" Hearing this, Su Wan instantly froze in her tracks. She had always been a sharp woman, and she instantly saw right through my intention. She gasped, "A hotel? You want to open a hotel? Ah Qing, you're taking way too big of a leap here. Do you even know how to run a business? Do you have any connections? The risk is just way too high." Facing her worries, I asked her right back, taking a massive risk? Or holding onto a broken down house that nobody wants, waiting for it to slowly rot away in the deafening roar of airplanes? Which one is more terrifying? Hearing my words, Su Wan spoke up with a face full of worry. "But 300,000 is not a small number. Using your old house as collateral, the valuation probably won't be enough. You don't have proof of income either." Before she could finish, I cut her off. "I know. That's exactly why I came to you. You're the professional. Please help me figure out a way." Honestly, I knew I was putting her in a really tough spot. But I had absolutely no other road left to take, because this was the only chance I could grab to completely change my destiny. Su Wan let out a long, heavy sigh and said, "Ah Qing, you're still exactly the same as before. You stay dead silent, but the second you speak, you scare people half to death. How about this? Tomorrow, bring your property deed and your documents. Come find me in the city, and I'll help you sort through it all. We'll see what channels we can use. I can't guarantee anything for sure, but I promise I will try my absolute best." Hearing this, I said with deep gratitude, "Thank you, Su Wan." To ease the heavy tension, she cracked a joke, "Don't thank me just yet. When your hotel is up and running, just save a free presidential suite for me for life." To this, I replied with absolute seriousness, "Deal. It's a promise." And so, the next day right at the crack of dawn, carrying every ounce of my hope, I squeezed onto the very first bus heading into the city. The moment we met, Su Wan started highlighting and scribbling all over my documents, making countless phone calls, and dragging me across several different departments. The bank's review staff, upon seeing my property deed marked right outside the demolition red line, all showed expressions of pure disbelief. In their eyes, giving a loan to an isolated island surrounded by an airport was an absurdly high risk. Because of this, I had to explain my business plan over and over again. But looking at me, a calm and even somewhat introverted young guy, their eyes were filled with nothing but suspicion. During that grueling period, There were several times where I felt like I just couldn't hold on anymore. Thank goodness Su Wan was right by my side encouraging me. Not only did she help me perfect the business plan, she taught me step by step how to communicate with the bank staff. He even pulled some strings, and took the branch directors out to dinner. 1 week later, just when I was about to give up hope, Su Wan called. On the other end of the line, her voice sounded exhausted, but mostly excited. Ah Ching, it got approved. Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my excitement. Really? She replied excitedly. Yes, really. 300,000 will be released within a week. I actually staked my job on it with our branch manager. Pushing your project as our key innovative pilot program for the year. Just to convince him, I gripped the phone, completely speechless. Tears welled up without warning. I said gratefully, Su Wan, thank you so much. Hearing this, Su Wan chuckled and replied, you silly guy. No need to be so formal with me. I immediately promised, once I get the money, I'll treat you to a massive feast. But Su Wan just laughed and said, let's skip the dinner. Just hurry up and get that hotel of yours built. I'm waiting to stay in the presidential suite. I hung up the phone, walked over to the window, and looked outside at the massive airport construction site that had already broken ground. 1 week later, I got a text message on my phone. 300,000 yuan has been deposited into your account. Staring at that long string of zeros, I couldn't help but take a deep breath. A full 500,000. This wasn't just my entire life savings, it was my ultimate gamble. I silently told myself, Dad, there is absolutely no turning back now. I answered with total conviction, I have to win. Losing is not an option. The day after I got the money, I immediately reached out to the best architectural design firm in the city and hired the most renowned construction crew in town. The foreman's name was Mr. Zhao. He was a very straightforward guy. When he saw my family's old house, he couldn't help but scratch his head. Ah Ching, are you really gonna tear this house down and rebuild it? That's right, Uncle Zhao. Foreman Zhao then asked, so what are you planning to build once it's torn down? Let me tell you, this whole area is gonna be the airport soon. Living in a normal house here won't be very comfortable, you know. I immediately pulled out a blueprint and said, Uncle Zhao, don't you worry, I've already had someone draw up the designs. Foreman Zhao took the blueprint, and with just one glance, his eyes went wide. Good heavens, 4 floors, plus a basement and an observation deck? You're trying to build a fancy mansion here. Hearing that, I calmly replied, it's not a mansion. It's a hotel. Foreman Zhao was absolutely stunned, exclaiming, Mother of God. Foreman Zhao and the workers behind him were completely dumbfounded. The looks on their faces were exactly the same as the bank staff back then. Foreman Zhao couldn't help but ask in disbelief, Ah Ching, you're not joking, are you? Opening a hotel in the middle of nowhere? I pointed at the dusty airport construction site in the distance and said, pretty soon, this won't be the middle of nowhere anymore. Look, that's gonna be the most bustling spot in all of Anning Town. Foreman Zhao looked into my determined eyes and fell completely silent. Then he stared hard at the blueprint for a good while, and looked back up at the location of my house. The look in his eyes slowly shifted. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh, and it suddenly dawned on him. I get it now, Ah Ching. You've got a real head on your shoulders. This is called seizing the high ground. Foreman Zhao continued excitedly, everyone else thinks this is a dead zone. But if you actually manage to build a hotel here, it's an absolute goldmine. When people get off those planes, they'll be dead tired. Who wouldn't want to find a place to rest their feet immediately? Isn't this hotel of yours going to be the very first thing they see when they wake up? Their number one choice? I was quite surprised that Uncle Zhao caught onto my idea so fast. So, I asked him, are you up for the job? Uncle Zhao immediately thumped his chest loudly. He agreed without missing a beat, I'm in. Why wouldn't I be? A gig this fun is impossible to find, even if you searched with a lantern. Don't you worry, whatever is on those blueprints, that is exactly what I will build for you. I promise it will be gorgeous. And built to last. The day the bulldozers rolled into the yard, they made one hell of a racket. A few neighbors who hadn't moved out yet came running to watch the show. When they saw the little house that held all my childhood memories come crashing down under the dozer's steel arm, they couldn't help but gasp. This Fu Qing has completely lost it. Tearing down a perfectly good house just like that. What is he up to? I heard he brought back a ton of cash, and is going to build a fancy little villa right here. Seeing this, Auntie Lee crossed her arms and sneered, build a villa? Sounds to me like he's got more money than brains. Once it is finished, living all alone in a house that huge. Won't he be terrified at night? Someone nearby chimed in. He won't even have a single neighbor around. It'll be just like living in a graveyard. If you ask me, his pride is going to be his downfall. Going toe-to-toe with the city planners? Does he really think that'll end well? I turned a deaf ear to all their gossiping, and just stood before the chaotic wreckage, watching the crew at work. It wasn't long before all the noise caught the attention of the town mayor, Jung Dachin. Sitting in his sedan, he rolled down the window and watched from a distance. He probably never expected that instead of crying and begging him, I would stir up a massive scene like this. Then, Jung Dachin shouted at me through the car window. Fu Ching. I walked over and asked, "Can I help you?" His tone was sharp and accusatory. "What exactly do you think you are doing?" "Renovating my house." But he kept grilling me. "Does a renovation mean flattening the entire building?" "This is a total reconstruction. Do you even have the permits for this?" "I do." Jung Dachin clearly didn't expect my paperwork to be so flawless. His face turned incredibly sour. He tossed the file back to me, his voice dripping with a threat. "I'm warning you, don't try anything stupid. The airport construction is a major deal. If you dare to interfere with the work or build illegally, don't blame me when things get ugly." I calmly took my papers back, looking him dead in the eye. "Relax, every single thing I'm doing is strictly by the book. I won't get in anyone's way, and I'd appreciate it if no one got in mine." Jung Dachin probably hadn't seen me push back so hard before. Finally, he let out a heavy scoff, rolled up his window, and sped off. I knew he showed up today to warn me, and to test my limits. Over the following days, I spent practically every waking moment at the site. Soon enough, the building's skeleton began rising from the empty lot, growing taller day by day right before my eyes. By the first month, the foundation and basement were completely finished. The second main structure was finally topped out. When the very last truckload of concrete was poured onto the fourth floor roof, Uncle Zhao was so thrilled he set off a whole string of firecrackers. I stood on the bare, newly finished rooftop, looking down at the land stretching out below me. Looking out into the distance, the outline of the new airport was becoming clearer day by day. It felt like my hotel and the future airport were locked in a silent race to see which one could reveal itself to the world first. But then, on this very day, while I was at the site discussing exterior finishes with the designer, a convoy of law enforcement vehicles came roaring in. Doors flew open, and over a dozen people piled out, wearing uniforms from all sorts of different departments. Leading the pack was a middle-aged guy, with Jung Dachin trailing right behind him. Wearing a faint, nasty little smirk, the middle-aged guy barked aggressively. "Who's in charge here?" I stepped forward and replied, "I am." He just flashed his badge at me and declared, "We're the Joint Task Force. We received a public tip-off. They say you've got serious construction violations going on here. Massive safety hazards, and that you're polluting the environment." My heart sank. I knew exactly what this was. Trouble. Jung Dachin just stood off to the side without saying a word, but his gloating eyes said it all. Looking right at them, I kept my cool and replied, "All of our paperwork is perfectly legal. Our construction follows state standards to the letter. You don't get to decide what's legal and what's not. Search the place. Check absolutely everything. Don't miss a single corner." The crew behind him immediately scattered, swarming all over my construction site. Some inspected the fire safety systems, others measured the noise levels. Some took air quality samples, and others started flipping through our construction logs. Uncle Zhao and the guys were absolutely stunned. They wanted to march over and argue, but I held them back. "Let them search," I said. Because deep down, I knew exactly what this was. This was Jung Dachin's revenge. At times like this, you absolutely cannot lose your cool. For the entire afternoon, my worksite was brought to a complete standstill. They nitpicked every little thing they could. "The rebar spacing here looks a bit off. Bring a tape measure. Your dust control is completely inadequate. We're issuing a fine. Where's the health permit for the canteen? Bring it out here right now." Jung Dachin kept leaning in, whispering into the inspector's ear, muttering who knows what, and then, the two of them would shoot me these nasty, mocking looks. I just kept quiet the whole time, only using my phone to record their every single move, making sure to get everyone's face clearly on camera. Finally, just as the sun was starting to set, after turning the whole site totally upside down, they huddled back together. The inspector cleared his throat to give his verdict. "Well, After a very thorough inspection this afternoon, your site essentially meets regulations. You could tell it physically pained him to say those words. I finally let out a massive sigh of relief. Because I knew, from the very second I decided to build this hotel, I made sure every single detail was absolute perfection. I hired the best inspection firm in the business, and demanded quality certificates for every single batch of materials. Every step of the build followed the blueprints to the letter. My ultimate goal was to create a building so flawless that nobody could find a single thing to complain about. Jung Dachin's face turned completely sour. Clearly, he never expected to think a 20-something guy like me could handle things so flawlessly. Then, the middle-aged man changed his tune. But, considering your construction site is right next to the airport, and it's a key project, this is a special case. To be absolutely on the safe side, we've decided to order you to halt construction for 1 week. For a full self-inspection, Uncle Zhao was the first to snap, roaring, "On what grounds? We haven't done anything wrong. Why the hell should we stop working?" The middle-aged man instantly hardened his face. "This is an order. If you refuse to comply, we will revoke your construction permit." However, looking at his greasy, arrogant face, I suddenly laughed. "Mayor Jung, I have the phone numbers of every single leader from the City Housing Bureau, the Fire Department, and the Environmental Protection Bureau. Oh, and that video I just recorded? I already sent it to a friend of mine. He works in the provincial media. Tell me, if I tell them exactly what happened here this afternoon, word for word, what do you think will happen? I'm just an ordinary guy, trying to protect my own home. I don't have money or power, so I can only use this dumb method to protect myself." Hearing this, the smirk instantly froze on his face. He stared at me in shock, his eyes filled with pure disbelief. He probably never imagined in his wildest dreams that a weak, easy-to-bully orphan like me would actually have a backup plan like this. Just then, the middle-aged man also sensed the shift in the atmosphere. He hurried over and asked, "Mayor Jung, what should we do?" Seeing this, Jung Dachin shot me a vicious glare. Gritting his teeth, he barked, "Let them continue construction." Without another word, he spun around and stormed into his car, fleeing in a panic with his pack of so-called enforcers. The construction site instantly erupted into cheers. "Hey Ching, you're a total badass." They cheered, but honestly, only I knew the truth. What I said just now was only half true. Yes, I did record a video, but the friend in the media? I completely made that up. I was taking a gamble. Gambling that Jung Dachin was too guilty and paranoid to risk blowing things out of proportion. And I won the bet. But I also knew, he definitely wouldn't just let this go. So, staring out at the distant city lights, I pulled out my phone. "Hello, Su Wan? I think I've gotten myself into some serious trouble." Su Wan listened quietly until I finished explaining everything that happened this afternoon. There was a long silence on her end. So, I hesitantly asked, "Hello? Su Wan, are you still there?" Her voice sounded exhausted, but completely calm. "I'm here, Ching. Don't panic just yet." I replied, "I'm not panicking. I just want to know what my next move should be." Su Wan began to analyze the situation. "You're on his turf. If you clash with him head-on, you're definitely going to get burned. We need to change our approach." I quickly pressed her, "What kind of approach?" "The art of war says, in battle, engage directly, but secure victory through surprise. Right now, your paperwork is flawless. You are completely legal and compliant. That is your direct advantage. Jung Dachin wants to pick a fight but can't find an excuse. So, he has no choice but to use dirty, underhanded tactics. What we need to do now is strike where he least expects it. A surprise move." I just listened quietly. Su Wan's analysis slowly cleared up the mess in my head. So, I asked her what this surprise move was. Su Wan answered me, word by word. "The airport, the Anning International Airport project itself, the one under construction right now." I froze for a second. She just kept going. "What's going to be your hotel's biggest advantage in the future?" "It's the one-of-a-kind location. It's right next to the airport, zero distance. So, starting right now, you can't just keep your eyes glued to this tiny little patch of land in Anning Town. And you definitely can't keep sweating over a clown like Jung Dachin. You need to elevate your vision up to the exact same level as the airport project. You have to find a way to make the airport developers see you as one of their own." Su Wan's words hit me like a lightning bolt, instantly tearing through the fog in my mind. I finally got it. The only reason Jung Dachin could bully me so relentlessly was because in his eyes, I was just a weak, isolated target. But if I could tie myself to a massive giant like the airport, if we were bound together, Jung Dachin would have to think twice before coming after me. But the problem was, how on earth do I do that? The airport project is a massive, top-tier government contract, I said, feeling pretty stuck. The guys in charge are way up there. I can't even get close to them. Su Wan just laughed. Who said anything about going straight to the big bosses? Ching, have you forgotten what your biggest advantage is? I was completely lost. My advantage? Su Wan jumped right in to explain. Right now, besides the airport itself, your construction site is the only place in all of Anning Town where a massive number of workers are gathered together. Think about it, how many workers are at the airport site? There's got to be at least a few thousand, right? So, what do they do for food? What about housing? Where do they buy their everyday stuff? From what I hear, because they're rushing to meet deadlines, the whole site is locked down. The workers' lives are actually incredibly boring and super inconvenient, and you are sitting right next door. It clicked instantly. I quickly asked her, are you saying I should do business with them? Su Wan's voice was buzzing with excitement. It's not just about doing business. This is your golden ticket to get involved with the airport project. You can use your current site to set up a small, temporary service area for them. A convenience store, some street food stalls, even an open-air movie theater. The investment is tiny, but it would instantly solve a huge headache for the airport workers. You wouldn't just be selling goods, you'd be selling convenience and comfort. When thousands of workers are grateful to you, how do you think the big bosses at the airport will see you? They'll see you as a visionary, a responsible partner, someone who helps them keep their backyard stable, an ally who solves their everyday problems. And when that happens, your hotel won't just be some lonely building anymore. It'll be the official service center for the entire airport project. Do you think Jung Dachin would dare mess with you then? Does he really have the guts to go against the entire airport project? I gripped the phone, shaking with excitement. I was so blown away I couldn't even speak for a moment. Su Wan. You are an absolute genius. Su Wan laughed. I'm not a genius, you're the one who inspired me. Anyone who comes up with the idea to build a hotel right next to the airport is clearly no fool. Su Wan then urged me again, this needs to be done as soon as possible. We have to beat Jung Dachin before he makes his next move. Get our cavalry in position. I quickly asked what I needed to do. Su Wan suggested, go find Uncle Zhao. He's got the men and the skills. Have him set up a temporary shed and open a street food stall. It'll be a piece of cake for him. As for the supplies, you can just hit up the wholesale market in the city. I'll give you a few numbers. They're all my clients, so they're totally reliable. The most important thing is that the prices are fair. The food has to be clean and safe. This is about winning over people's hearts. Hanging up the phone, I felt every cell in my body fire up. My previous exhaustion and confusion were completely wiped away, replaced by a fierce drive and hope I had never felt before. I tracked down Uncle Zhao that very night and pitched the idea to him. Uncle Zhao slapped his thigh and cheered, that's a brilliant idea. I've felt bad for the boys at the airport site for a while now. Eating that cafeteria food every single day. Their mouths must be tasting like absolute cardboard by now. If we set up a food stall and get some cold beers and skewers going, they're gonna go absolutely nuts for it. Uncle Zhao patted his chest and promised, Ching. Don't you worry, leave this to me. I'll bring the guys tomorrow to level out the ground. I guarantee we'll be open within 3 days. Sure enough, Uncle Zhao's hustle was beyond anything I could have imagined. 3 days later, built from steel pipes and corrugated metal sheets, a massive, rustic food court began to take shape. I named it, the Pit Stop. It was meant to refuel the workers, and to give myself a boost of energy too. Meanwhile, Jung Dachin's guys had been spying on us in secret. Seeing that we weren't building a hotel, and were putting up a shack instead, they were completely baffled. Soon enough, the Pit Stop opened for business. I threw a little grand opening ceremony that day. I wrote some massive characters on red paper and slapped it right by the entrance. First 3 days of opening, all food and drinks are half off. I also had Uncle Zhao send a few workers over to the airport site's gates to hand out flyers. As evening rolled around, before the sky had completely gone dark, the quitting bell at the airport site finally rang. Hundreds of workers poured out of the gates like a tidal wave. Most of them were covered head to toe in dirt. looking completely exhausted, but when they saw our spot lit up like a beacon, and caught the mouthwatering smell of barbecue and stir-fry drifting through the air, they stopped dead in their tracks. Someone asked curiously, "What is that place over there? Why is it popping off so much? Looks like a place to grab some grub. What's it called?" "The Pit Stop," someone chimed in. "Let's go check it out." Our very first customer was a really young-looking guy, still with a bit of a boyish face. "Hey boss, is everything here really half off?" I smiled and replied, "It absolutely is." He placed his order. "Then get me a bowl of twice-cooked pork over rice, and throw in 2 eggs. "You got it." I stepped into the kitchen myself, and as fast as I could, I whipped up a steaming hot, massive bowl of rice and brought it right to him. The kid's eyes nearly popped out of his head staring at that mountain of twice-cooked pork. Pretty soon, the second and third customers rolled in too. Half an hour later, the whole gas station was packed with people, sitting around in small groups, ordering a few plates of snacks and a couple of cases of beer. All the pent-up stress from a long day at the construction site was finally letting loose, fueled by the good food and alcohol. What used to be an empty, dead silent night was now buzzing with this raw, lively energy. It totally brought the place to life. Uncle Zhao and his crew were at one of the tables too, drinking until their faces were flush red. My plan had successfully taken its first step. Over the next few days, business at the gas station just kept booming. My little place had become the only sanctuary and playground for these guys, an escape from the dull grind of the construction site. The guys eating nearby all frowned when they saw what was happening. It was obvious. They could tell these punks were looking for trouble. So, I walked out of the kitchen, took off my apron, and calmly asked, "What can I get for you boys?" Zheng Cheng looked me up and down, his eyes full of aggression. "So, you're the boss around here? We ain't here to eat. We're here to collect protection money." He held up 5 fingers and sneered, "If you want to do business here in Anning Town, you gotta play by our rules. Every month, you pay us this amount." But before I could even say a word, a massive, burly guy at the next table shot up from his seat. The guy was a foreman from the airport construction site, last name Zhang, and he ate here almost every single day. Foreman Zhang growled in a deep, heavy voice, "Who the hell do you think you are?" The guys eating nearby all frowned when they saw what was happening. It was obvious they could tell these punks were looking for trouble. So, I walked out of the kitchen, took off my apron, and calmly asked, "What can I get for you boys?" Zheng Cheng looked me up and down, his eyes full of aggression. "So, you're the boss around here? We ain't here to eat. We're here to collect protection money." He held up 5 fingers and sneered, "If you want to do business here in Anning Town, you gotta play by our rules. Every month, you pay us this amount." But before I could even say a word, a massive, burly guy at the next table shot up from his seat. The guy was a foreman from the airport construction site, last name Zhang, and he ate here almost every single day. Foreman Zhang growled in a deep, heavy voice, "Who the hell do you think you are? Coming in here acting like you own the place." Zheng Cheng shot him a dirty look, totally blowing him off. "And who the hell are you? This is grown folks' business. So keep your mouth shut, little boy, or we'll beat you down, too." Foreman Zhang just let out a chuckle. He didn't say another word. Instead, he casually picked up an empty glass beer bottle from the table, and with just a slight squeeze, crack, the entire glass bottle shattered into a million pieces right there in his bare hand. Seeing that, the smug grins on Zheng Cheng and his lackeys' faces instantly froze. A second later, from every corner of the room, dozens of other massive, hardened construction workers stood up. Some of them grabbed beer bottles, while others picked up heavy wooden stools. Nobody said a damn word. They just dead silently boxed Zheng Cheng and his thugs right in the middle of the room. These guys came from all walks of life, busting their backs on the rough construction sites all year round. They might not have had much of a formal education, but they lived by a pure, unbreakable street loyalty. Because I kept them fed with great, affordable food, they were more than ready to step up and fight for me. Zheng Cheng and his gang were only used to bullying the quiet folks around town. They'd never faced a standoff like this before. So, Zheng Cheng, trying to act tough while shaking inside, yelled out, "What do you think you're doing? Let me tell you, my uncle is Zheng Daqin." Boss Zhang spat in disgust and shot back, "Zheng Daqin is your uncle, huh? Then who's your daddy, the Jade Emperor himself? Get the hell out of here, before we make you." Zheng Cheng wanted to talk some more trash, but seeing the crowd getting bigger and bigger, He completely chickened out, so he and his goons scrambled away with their tails between their legs. He hollered, "Let's go," as the crowd instantly burst into roaring laughter. I watched Jung Chang's gang running for their lives, then looked at the workers who had stepped up to defend me. A deep warmth filled my heart, so I walked right over and gave Boss Zhang a deep bow. "Brother Zhang, and to all of you out here, thank you so much for today." Boss Zhang just waved it off with a hearty laugh. "Ah, what are you thanking us for? We just can't stand those scumbags. Boss Fu, listen up. We've got your back here. From now on, if anyone dares to mess with you, they're picking a fight with thousands of his brothers." As soon as he said that, the whole crowd roared in agreement. Yeah, they're messing with thousands of us. Standing right there in the middle of the crowd, looking at all those honest, genuine faces, I was more moved than words could say. Meanwhile, off in the distance, Zheng Daqin, Sing Ta, watching his nephew getting kicked out in disgrace, was shaking with absolute rage. Sing A, at that moment, he realized. Sing A, things were slowly slipping out of his control. And me, the orphan he never gave a damn about, had grown tough wings he never saw coming. Meanwhile, just down the road, the main structure of my 4-story building was finally finished. It was just waiting for the exterior decorations. Actually, I already had a name picked out for it. It would be called Cloud Hotel. I quietly made a promise to myself. I was going to make everyone who ever looked down on me stare up at me from the ground. After Zheng Chang and his lackeys scurried off, the energy at the gas station hit an all-time high. Boss Zhang slammed a stack of cash on the table. "Boss Fu, if you look down on us rough guys, then take this cash back. We didn't help you just to take advantage of you. We just think that for a young guy like you to stand up to those thugs takes real guts. We respect you as a man." I couldn't argue with them in the end, so I had to take the cash. But in my heart, I knew I gained something way more valuable than money. I had truly won over their hearts. The news spread fast, and soon reached the ears of the airport project command center. At first, they were totally freaked out. Thousands of workers gathering at an uncontrolled private spot? In their eyes, that was a massive safety hazard. Word is, the project team called an emergency overnight meeting. During the meeting, someone suggested shutting down my gas station entirely, and forcing all the workers into a locked-down construction site. But that idea was immediately shut down by the construction manager. If you lock them up by force, you're just going to build up tension and pressure. Sooner or later, a disaster will strike. After a long debate, a compromise was finally brought to the table. Rather than treating him as a threat, it would be better to turn him into a manageable partner. Soon enough, an SUV bearing the official plate of the Anning Airport Construction Command pulled up right outside my site. A man in his 30s stepped out of the car. He walked straight up to me and asked in a very polite tone, "Excuse me, are you Boss Fu Qing?" I looked at him with my guard up. "Yes, I am," I replied. He reached out his hand to introduce himself. "Hello, my name is Qin Shou. I'm the Deputy Director of Logistics for the airport project. Could I have a quick word with you?" I hesitated for a second, but eventually, I led him over to the gas station. And we sat down at an empty table. I poured him a glass of herbal tea, and asked, "Director Qin, what can I do for you?" Qin Shou smiled, and with a warm expression, he said, "Boss Fu, don't be so tense. I'm not here to cause trouble today. I'm actually here to talk business with you." I froze when I heard that, and asked in disbelief, "Talk business?" Qin Shou pushed up his glasses and got straight to the point. "Yes, after some discussion at headquarters, we all agreed that your gas station has made a highly positive impact on keeping the airport project running smoothly. We are truly grateful to you for giving the workers such a wonderful place to relax." Hearing those words caught me completely off guard. I really thought they were going to come after me sooner or later. Qin Shou then pulled a document out of his briefcase and said, "We'd like to sign a formal partnership agreement with you. Our command center will officially authorize your gas station as the Anning International Airport Project's #1 living service area. We will provide you with an official plaque, and also give you a monthly subsidy. We only have one condition." My heart started racing, and I quickly asked, "What condition?" Qin Shou looked at me, his eyes full of genuine sincerity. "Guarantee food safety, and keep your prices stable. Let the workers eat without worry, and eat happily. You see, Boss Fu, we know you're barely making any profit with your current prices. We are giving you this subsidy because we want you to keep doing this for the long run. You help us hold down the fort here in the back, so our guys can focus on building the front lines with peace of mind." At that moment, I looked down at the agreement on the table. Seeing the word partnership printed right there, my eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Su Wan's brilliant strategy, that clever move to win them over, finally, actually played out in a way I never could have imagined. Not only was I now an ally of the airport project, I was officially recognized as one of their own. Without hesitation, I answered, "I accept." I picked up the pen and signed my name right on the dotted line. Chin Shou happily packed up the document and said, "Boss Fu, it's a pleasure doing business with you. From now on, if you need any help, or if anyone comes around here to harass you, just give me a call anytime." Trusting his word, I saw Chin Shou out. I immediately called Su Wan, excitedly saying, "Hello? Su Wan, we did it." Su Wan laughed on the other end of the line. "I knew it, Ah Ching. Remember, when you can provide others with value they simply can't refuse, you become a partner everyone wants on their side. Rather than some ant they can just crush underfoot. From now on, your battlefield has leveled up." Sure enough, the very next day, brand new blue sign was hung up right in the most eye-catching spot of the gas station. It featured two massive lines of text: Anning International Airport Project Designated Living Service Area. Supervised by the Logistics Support Department of the Anning Airport Construction Headquarters. That sign was like an ancient general's command flag. The moment it went up, the whole vibe of the gas station completely changed. The workers looked at the sign, and you could see them standing a little taller. Spending money here was no longer just eating and drinking, it felt like an officially endorsed perk. With that, my status shifted from a highly controversial independent vendor to a legitimate, government-backed businessman. I could clearly feel that. Zheng Daqin's ever-watching eyes backed off quite a bit after seeing that sign. At least for the following week, there wasn't a single harassment incident. Both the construction site and the gas station enjoyed a rare stretch of peace. But I knew it was just the calm before the storm. After all, a guy like Zheng Daqin would never just let things go. Sure enough, trouble arrived a week later, sneaking up on me in a way I totally didn't expect. That morning, old Lee, the truck driver who delivers my pork, came looking for me with a long face. "Boss Fu, I am so sorry man. I might not be able to deliver the meat today." My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly asked, "What happened?" "Mr. Lee?" Old Lee lit up a cigarette, took a deep drag, sighed heavily, and said, "Don't even ask. I went to pick up the goods early this morning, and got pulled over halfway by the town's transport authority. They claimed I broke the rules, said they had to impound my truck and fine me. My truck wasn't even carrying half its weight limit. I tried arguing with them, but they just slapped me with a 10,000 yuan fine, or they'd impound the truck for a month." Hearing that, my heart instantly sank. This was definitely no coincidence. It was clearly Zheng Daqin's new dirty trick. He didn't dare come after me directly anymore, so he started targeting my supply chain upstream. Old Lee then added helplessly, "And it's not just me. This morning, the guys delivering veggies to our area, and the grain and oil delivery guys, several of their trucks got pulled over at different intersections. They made up all sorts of ridiculous excuses. Stuff like failing emissions tests, dirty vehicles, basically anything to justify a fine and an impound. Right now, not a single delivery driver in town dares to head your way anymore. They're all terrified. What a brutal way to cut off my lifeblood. You have to understand, the gas station burns through a massive amount of ingredients every single day. The moment the supply chain breaks, we'd be forced to shut down in less than 2 days. By lunchtime, the impact of the food shortage was already starting to show. Several workers tried to order their favorite dishes, but we just couldn't make them because we were out of ingredients. Even though they all said they understood, I could see the sheer disappointment in their eyes. Seeing that made me incredibly anxious. So, I instantly picked up the phone and called Chin Shou. I explained the situation to him. Chin Shou blew up on the phone. "This is absolutely outrageous. This is absolute nonsense. They are actively sabotaging the normal operations of the airport project." He promised me right then and there to take it up with the town officials. But, 1 hour later, he called back, sounding completely defeated. "Fu Qing, I talked to them. They talked a big game, promising to fix it right away. But their guys on the ground are totally playing us. They are still setting up checkpoints everywhere. It is local protectionism, just a massive inside web of dirty money. We are just the command center. We don't have any direct authority over the local administration. These guys are just playing dirty, dodging the issue and giving us the runaround. Looks like I couldn't rely on anyone else. I had to carve out my own bloody path. I immediately dialed Su Wan's number. Su Wan, I need a massive favor. Those contacts for the city wholesale markets you gave me before. Do you still have them? Su Wan immediately asked. Yeah, I do. Why? What's going on? Did something happen? I quickly laid out Jung Daqin's dirty tricks and the massive hole I was in. I gave her the short version. Su Wan went dead silent on the other end for a few seconds. Then she said, that is ruthless. They are literally backing you into a corner. Ah Ching, what's your game plan? Getting supplies all the way from the city. That is a really long haul. Your overhead costs are going to skyrocket. Plus, you don't even have a truck. I can rent one, or I'll buy a used one. I don't care if it costs a bit more. I can use the subsidy Director Chin gave me for this. The most important thing is, I need total control over my supply chain. I refuse to let these guys hold me by the throat anymore. Su Wan's voice was filled with approval as I gave my firm answer. She said, good, you've got guts. That is the Ah Ching I know. Leave the truck situation to me. I've got a client in the used car business. I'll have him track down a tough, reliable little pickup for you. I'll handle all the paperwork. I'll front the cash for now, so don't even stress about it. As for the wholesale market, I'll pull some strings and put in a good word for you. I'll make sure they set aside their premium stock and lock in the absolute best wholesale prices. Ah Ching, you just need to remember one thing. Anning Town is nothing but a tiny little pond. Jung Daqin might be the big fish in that pond, but outside of it, he is absolutely nothing. What you need to do is plant your roots out into the massive rivers and oceans beyond that pond. Su Wan's words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I had been so obsessed with figuring out how to beat him on his own turf in Anning Town. I totally forgot that I could just bypass him entirely and step onto a way bigger stage. 2 days later, a beat-up little blue truck rolled up and parked right at the gate of my construction site. Su Wan had driven it all the way down herself. She hopped out and tossed the keys right into my hand. You do have a driver's license, right? I flashed a confident smile. Of course I do. Got it back in college. Though, it's been a hot minute since I actually drove. Su Wan warmly reassured me. No worries at all. This truck is an absolute tank. Just drive it however you want. She then popped the back of the truck open. The entire bed was packed straight to the brim. With a huge grin, she said, I grabbed all of this from the wholesale market on my way down here. Here's your first batch of supplies. Go on, check them out. Looking at the truckload of fresh ingredients, and then at Su Wan, who was covered in dust from the journey. My nose stung, and I couldn't help but choke up. Su Wan quickly patted my shoulder and interrupted, all right. Don't get all emotional on me. Hurry up and unload the truck. The guys are starving. Just remember, when your hotel finally opens, just save a few presidential suites for me. That night, the feast at the gas station was richer than ever before. When the guys found out that I had personally driven dozens of miles to the city just to haul this food back, they were completely stunned. Foreman Zhang walked up to me with a bowl of liquor, his face flushed with emotion. Boss Fu, I haven't respected many people in my life, but you're definitely one of them. Just for the heart you've shown us. We've got your back. This gas station is our home now. And if anyone dares to mess with our home, we'll make them pay. Suddenly, hundreds of workers roared in unison, our home. If anyone messes with our home, we'll make them pay. At that moment, I knew. Jung Daqin's dirty trick to cut off my supplies had completely failed. Not only did he fail to crush me, but he actually forged an unbreakable bond between me and these hardworking guys. Now that I had my own truck and an independent supply chain. Gone 6, 0, 5, 7, 9. My gas station had finally found its footing. Gone G, 0, 5, 7, 9. I poured all my energy. Gone 6, 0, 5, 7, 9. Back into the construction of the hotel. I threw myself completely back into building the hotel. The designer Su Wan found for me was incredibly talented. He designed my hotel with a sleek, modern, and minimalist style, set against the messy backdrop of the construction site. It looked like a piece of art dropped straight out of a futuristic city. Meanwhile, taking Chin Shou's advice, I opened up a small convenience store, selling cigarettes, snacks, and daily essentials. I also bought a few washing machines to offer a laundry service. At this point, my gas station had grown into a fully functional mini-community. It perfectly solved all the everyday worries for the airport workers. And just like that, my reputation spread by word of mouth across the entire airport project. Everyone knew that right next to the site, there was a young boss named Fu Qing. One day, I was crunching numbers at the station when Qin Shou suddenly walked in with a few people. Leading the group was a middle-aged man in his 40s, followed by two younger guys. Holding notepads and cameras, Qin Shou immediately introduced them with a bright smile. "Boss Fu. Let me introduce you. This is Manager Chen Mo, from the Project Development Department at Southern Airlines headquarters. He's here doing a preliminary survey for the airport's future flight routes." Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat. I immediately stood up and extended my hand. "Manager Chen, it's a pleasure to meet you." Chen Mo shook my hand. With a polished, professional smile. "Boss Fu, I've heard so much about you. Director Qin couldn't stop praising you on the way here." I quickly replied with modesty, "You flatter me, Director." Chen Mo then got straight to the point. "We just took a tour around the airport site, and then we noticed this incredibly well-designed building of yours." Director Qin mentioned, "Is this the hotel that's about to open? And are you the owner?" I answered firmly, "Yes, I am." He immediately made a request. "Could you show us around?" I replied right away, "Of course." I put down the ledger in my hands and led them toward my hotel. On the way, Chen Mo asked me a lot of questions. My answers were calm and clear, and I led them into the hotel lobby, which was still under renovation. They were all absolutely blown away. Standing right here, you could clearly see the tower cranes busy at work on the distant construction site. It wasn't hard to imagine that, in the near future, we would see silver airplanes taking off and landing here one after another. The visual impact would be absolutely unparalleled. Chen Mo couldn't help but genuinely praise me. "Incredible. Boss Fu, you have fantastic vision." While everyone else was just staring at the demolition payouts, you saw the future value. Meanwhile, the assistant behind him kept snapping photos and taking notes non-stop. After that, we walked up to the rooftop viewing terrace. Standing up here, the entire airport construction site was in full view. Chen Mo gazed into the distance and slowly spoke up. "Every single time our airline's flight crews carry out a mission, they need to rest and recover in the destination city. We have incredibly high standards for our partnered hotels. Safety, privacy, and convenience. None of these can be compromised. Your hotel's location has a naturally unique advantage. It is the absolute closest to the airport. It's even closer than our planned staff dormitories." He then turned his head and looked at me, with a bright gleam in his eyes. "Boss Fu, once your hotel opens, would you be interested in becoming Southern Airlines' designated accommodation hotel for our flight crews here at Anning Airport?" Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat. You have to understand, signing a long-term partnership agreement with an airline meant that, even before my hotel opens, I would already have the most stable and highest quality customer base. This was undeniably everything I had ever dreamed of. So, I forced down my sheer excitement. "Of course I'm interested." Chen Mo nodded in satisfaction at my words. "Excellent. Once your hotel is officially completed, we will send a professional team over for an assessment. If all goes well, we'll draft the strategic partnership into an agreement first. After that," he took a business card out of his pocket and handed it to me. "Let's keep in touch." After seeing Chen Mo and his group off, I stood alone on the rooftop, letting the wind blow past me. It felt like everything was just a dream, but just as I was getting ready to head downstairs, the corner of my eye caught a glimpse of a car parked at the far end of the dirt road. That was Zheng Daqin's car. He was sitting inside, with someone else sitting right beside him. Right then, Zheng Daqin seemed to be pointing at my hotel, saying something to the guy. So, I calmly walked downstairs and sent Su Wan a message. "Help me look into someone. 123. GI. Then, I used my phone to zoom in from the rooftop and snapped a blurry silhouette of those two men. I added, the one in the suit sitting next to Zheng Daqin. I want all his background info. The more detailed, the better." Su Wan replied almost instantly, "Got it. Are we in trouble?" "Got it. We've got trouble. 123, I replied. "This might be real trouble." After hanging up the phone, I walked over to the site entrance and said, "Uncle Zhao, do me a favor." Uncle Zhao immediately replied, "Ching, just say the word." I explained, "Help me find someone to make a wooden sign. The best wood, hand-carved." Uncle Zhao asked curiously, "What should it say?" Carve these exact words, no entry for non-paying guests. Uncle Zhao stared at the words for a second, then smiled and said, "Understood, you're laying down the law for certain people, huh? I will go find the best carpenter in town right now. I promise to make it crystal clear for you." 3 days later, a sign carved from a solid block of rosewood was placed right at the most visible spot at my hotel's site entrance. And the appearance of this sign instantly caught everyone's attention. The workers coming to eat at the gas station would all stop to stare at it as they walked past, then smile knowingly. It was obvious they all knew exactly who this sign was meant for. Of course, Zheng Daqin saw it too. He definitely knew that non-paying guests meant him, and that VIP guest he brought along. I was using the most blunt way possible to tell them, "This is my turf. Your snooping is not welcome here." That very night, Su Wan called me. Ching. I found it. That guy's name is Ji Bochang. He is the head of Hua Yu Capital in the city. What he is best at is hunting down projects with massive potential value, but that also have weaknesses or legal disputes. Then, he uses all sorts of dirty tricks to force a hostile buyout at a dirt cheap price. He flips them for a massive profit. Over the years, he has destroyed countless companies and completely ruined people's lives. Every single word Su Wan said made my heart sink a little deeper. Confused, I asked her, how did a guy like him end up mixed up with Zheng Daqin? Su Wan replied immediately, I checked the corporate registry. An investment firm under Ji Bochang's name partnered up with Zheng Daqin's own brother just last month to register a brand new company called Anning Konggong Limited. Su Wan then asked, and the company's registered address? Guess where it is? Hearing that, my brain just exploded. I answered, it is right here, at my property. Su Wan's voice was ice cold. Exactly, it is the exact address of your land. Everything suddenly made perfect sense. Zheng Daqin never planned to leave me alone from the very start. He cut me out of the development zone, specifically to save this piece of land for himself. He knew this land would skyrocket in value, so he had his brother team up with Ji Bochang to steal it right out from under me. Me building a hotel here completely blocked their money train, so they're trying every dirty trick in the book to drive me out and take my hotel for themselves. All those petty, underhanded moves before were just the appetizers. Now, the real corporate predator, Ji Bochang, has personally stepped into the ring. Filled with dread, I asked Su Wan, what are they going to do? Su Wan replied, Ji Bochang's playbook usually has 3 steps. Step 1. A massive smear campaign to completely ruin your reputation. He will make everyone think you are toxic, and force your business partners to turn against you. Number 2, legal warfare. They'll slap you with all sorts of bogus lawsuits to bleed your energy and funds dry. Number 3, pulling the rug out from under you. They'll target your cash flow and your team, making you collapse from the inside. Once they've tortured you enough, he'll swoop in playing the savior. He'll offer you an insultingly low price that you can't refuse, and buy out everything you own. I listened to Su Wan's analysis, stayed silent for a long time, and then slowly spoke up. I get it, since he wants to play games. Then I'll play with him till the bitter end. Hearing this, Su Wan looked a bit worried. Ching. I turned to Su Wan and said, Su Wan, keep an eye on Ji Bochang and that new company for me. Track all their money flow and movements. I need to know his every move. Also, I'll push for the partnership with Southern Airlines as soon as possible. I need a powerful, official ally to back me up, and my hotel needs to be finished and open for business as fast as humanly possible. As long as I start generating cash flow, I can outlast him. I laid out my entire plan in one breath. Hearing this, Su Wan let out a long sigh of relief. Ching, you've really grown up. I stared at the no entry sign outside the window. I had no choice. This world has no pity for tears. If you want to survive, you have to become a fiercer warrior than your enemies. Ji Bochang's attack came much faster and hit much harder than I expected. Overnight, several local forums in Anning town, along with a bunch of city gossip blogs, were flooded with brutal hit pieces. The headlines were pure clickbait. The illegal tumor next to the airport. Who gave him the right to ignore zoning laws? Where did a kid get 500,000? Capital conspiracy. Uncovering the dark money behind Cloud Hotel. Safety alert. A hotel less than 100 meters from the runway. Could this become a massive threat to future flights? In the article dated March 25, 2026, labeled 117207, I was painted as a greedy, shadowy figure. The post from March 23, 2026, labeled 117007, called me a stubborn squatter who'd risk public safety for money, while hinting my loans were dirty. They even insinuated that I was bribing the bank and airport officials. Su Wan and Chin Shou were both dragged into the mud through sheer implication. These articles spread like a virus, going viral online in no time. The folks in town were already jealous and curious about me, but now they wouldn't stop gossiping. See, I told you. How could a young kid pull this off? He's definitely got shady backers. Well, now he's done for. Let's see how he gets out of this mess. Posted the account Shang Black Tea. Auntie Lee, using the handle Water Black Tea New Tea, was practically gloating. She forwarded all these articles in the local WeChat groups, and added fuel to the fire, saying, "This is what happens when a nobody tries to play big shot. Karma's a bitch." The massive wave of negative word of mouth quickly reached the airport project headquarters. Chin Shou called me immediately, sounding totally panicked. "Ah Ching, have you seen those articles online? The higher-ups at the headquarters are taking this very seriously. We're under a lot of pressure here." I replied calmly, "I saw them. Director Chin, take a deep breath. I'll handle this. The truth will speak for itself." I hung up the phone, before I could even catch my breath. Uncle Zhao came storming over to me, fuming. "Hey Ching, this is just going too far." I asked him, completely confused, "What's wrong, Uncle Zhao?" Still seething, Uncle Zhao burst out, "Just now. Some company from the city called Hongfa Construction or whatever sent people down to our site. They specifically named and tried to poach my master craftsman. They offered double the pay and promised full benefits. A few of the younger guys are already tempted." My heart just sank. I tracked down those young workers who were swayed. I didn't yell at them. I just looked at them calmly and said, "People want better for themselves. I get it. If you want to go, I won't stop you. I'll pay out every single cent you've earned if you leave. But know this, the doors of the Cloud Hotel will be closed to you forever." After saying that, I turned around and walked away. Those young guys just stood there, staring at each other. In the end, nobody left. They might not be the most fiercely loyal, but they're not stupid. They can tell who is actually trying to build something real, and who is just here to destroy things. Uncle Zhao's team stayed rock solid, but the new troubles just kept coming. The very next day, I received a court summons. Some environmental tech company I'd never even heard of, claiming that our construction noise and light pollution were severely messing with their precision instruments. They were suing me for 1 million yuan, and they demanded my hotel stop construction immediately. But get this, the registered address for this company was just a piece of wasteland a few miles away. There wasn't a single damn soul out there. This was a blatantly malicious lawsuit. Their whole goal was just to drag me down and bleed me dry. I had to spend a fortune to hire a lawyer to fight it. My funds were already stretched incredibly thin, and now I had this massive extra expense. I was only sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. During the day, I had to deal with the construction site, calm down the anxious workers, and have meetings with the lawyer. At night, I had to drive to the city myself to restock supplies, and check on the gas station business when I got back. The immense pressure was suffocating. I felt like I couldn't breathe. For the first time, I started to doubt myself. My opponent was a financial monster, backed by massive capital and a professional team. And I just had a tiny team and blind courage. Right at that moment, Su Wan called me. "Hey Ching, don't be afraid. I know everything. These dirty little tricks of Ji Bochong are his usual moves. A lot of people have fallen for them, but you won't. Go take a look outside the gas station right now." Hearing this, I wiped my tears and walked to the door in confusion. Right there, in the open space outside the gas station, dozens of workers who had just got off shift were huddled together, holding their phones, leaving comment after comment under those articles that were smearing me. Bullshit. Boss Fu's food is the cheapest in all of Anning Town, and the cleanest. I work right here on the Cloud Hotel site, and the safety standards here are way higher than a lot of the big properties in the city. Who's spreading these lies? I'll rip their freaking mouths off. If this hotel breaks the rules, then there's not a single legal building left in the whole damn world. Boss Fu has every single permit in check. We support Boss Fu. Take down those backstabbing scumbags. Their words were pretty rough, even filled with cursing, but they only knew one thing. Whoever treats them right, they'll stick their necks out for. Looking at them, my tears started welling up all over again. But this time, it was out of pure gratitude. I suddenly understood. Ji Bochong might have the money, the team, and the dirty tricks. But I have something he will never, ever have. I have the people's hearts. I sniffled, and walked right up to them. Brother Zhang, and all you guys. Brother Zhang saw me and flashed a big grin. I said, thank you all so much. Thank us for what? We just can't stand seeing those scumbags bully a good person. Another worker chimed in. Don't you worry, Boss Fu. We've got thousands of brothers standing right here with you. If they dare touch a single hair on your head, we'll tear their entire base down to the ground. I looked at their honest, unwavering faces, and all the confusion and fear in my heart just vanished. I stood up tall again, and dialed Manager Chen Mo from the airline. Hello, Manager Chen, this is Fu Qingqing. Those rumors floating around about me online. I'm sure you've seen them. I don't want to waste time making pointless excuses. I just want to invite you and your assessment team to come down and inspect my hotel in person, anytime you want. Plus, I want to make a bet with you. If we pass the inspection, I want us to sign the contract immediately. In return, I'll give you a 20% discount on the partnership fees for the first 3 years. But if we fail, I will personally pay for all of your team's travel expenses. I am betting my reputation on this, and my entire future. My call completely caught Chen Mo off guard. Boss Fu, you've got a lot of guts. I respect people with guts. Tell you what, in 3 days, I'll bring our most professional team over. I hope you don't let me down. I replied, it's a deal. The moment I hung up, I immediately went to find Uncle Zhao. Uncle Zhao, we have exactly 3 days. Get the hotel ready to host the assessment team. I dumped every last cent of my remaining funds into this final push. We need to take the most core, valuable parts of the hotel and present them flawlessly. Forget about those time-consuming, tedious little decorations. I told everyone, we are not just renovating right now. We are going to war. The workers' passion was completely ignited. Foreman Zhang and his crew even volunteered to stay. They didn't rest after their shifts. They came straight to my site to help. The airport construction site with thousands of guys formed an amazing alliance with my hotel site. By day, they were sweating buckets over at the airport, and by night, they fired up the temporary floodlights here, burning the midnight oil to keep building. The entire site was lit up bright as day, 24 hours round the clock, buzzing with energy. This desperate, do-or-die spirit left absolutely everyone in shock. 3 days later, when the airline's assessment team, led by Chen Mo, arrived at my hotel once again, every single one of them was absolutely stunned by what they saw. In just a few short days, the building had been completely transformed. The core areas were already shaping up to look like a true 5-star hotel. I walked them up to the rooftop viewing terrace. It was already set up with comfortable outdoor seating. I offered my hand. Manager Chen, please, take a seat. And I poured every one of them a fresh cup of hot tea. That wraps up the introduction here. In the future, this will be the Airport View Executive Lounge of our Cloud Hotel. Every China Southern Airlines crew member staying at our hotel will be able to enjoy a top-tier view right here. Along with the most relaxing environment, Chen Mo, holding his teacup, looked out at the massive terminal building in the distance, his eyes filled with absolute awe. Meanwhile, the team members behind him were holding various instruments, scanning every corner of the hotel, conducting the most rigorous tests. My heart was completely in my throat. 1 hour later, all the tests were completed. A technical lead wearing glasses walked up to Chen Mo and handed him the freshly generated report. Chen Mo took it and began to read it meticulously. He was reading incredibly slowly, and my palms were completely drenched in sweat. Finally, he put the report down and looked at me with a razor-sharp gaze. Boss Fu, I have to admit, you've created a genuine miracle. Whether it's the construction quality or the design concept, your hotel has completely exceeded our expectations. Especially the soundproofing, keeping the indoor noise level under 40 decibels. That is truly remarkable. Hearing that, my heart finally settled back into my chest. To achieve this level of soundproofing, we gave up on all those time-consuming, elaborate decorations. But looking at it now, it was absolutely worth it. But then, Chen Mo's tone suddenly shifted. However, your hotel is currently just a half-finished product. A lot of the supporting facilities are still incomplete, which does not meet the terms of our partnership agreement. I took a deep breath, and just as I was about to pitch my backup plan, Chen Mo suddenly smiled. But personally, I strongly believe in your future. So, I've decided to take a gamble on you too. With that, he pulled 2 documents from his briefcase. One was the hotel partnership letter of intent, and the other was a private angel investment agreement. Chen Mo explained, "This letter of intent, we can sign right now. It represents the official backing of China Southern Airlines, and it should help you fend off a lot of external pressure." Then, he pushed the second document in front of me. "As for this investment agreement, this is a personal investment, made under my wife's name. Putting 1 million into your hotel. Use it to get through this immediate crisis, and get the hotel fully completed. I don't want any of your equity. Just consider it a loan. Once your hotel turns a profit, you can just pay me back with interest." I never in my wildest dreams imagined he would support me like this. My voice trembled as I asked, "Why?" Chen Mo took a sip of his tea, his gaze growing distant, and said, "Because, looking at you, I see a reflection of my younger self, starting with absolutely nothing, yet daring to declare war on the whole world. There aren't many young people like that left. I refuse to watch your dream get strangled in the cradle by that filthy corporate greed." Tears welled up in my eyes. I stood up and gave him a deep, respectful bow. "Manager Chen, thank you so much. I, Fu Qing, swear right here and now, I will never betray your trust." That afternoon, on the rooftop of my half-finished hotel, I signed that million-yuan agreement. But the exact moment my pen left the paper, I received a message from Su Wan. "Ding, Ji Bochong has started moving on the secondary market. Ding, he's launching a hostile takeover of our bank's shares. He wants to force me out." I stared at the message, then looked up toward the horizon. I knew right then, the real final battle had just begun. Manager Chen Mo's 1 million in private investment was like a shot of adrenaline, breathing life into my nearly dried up cash flow. But that text from Su Wan felt like a bucket of ice water dumped right over my head. I knew she was being targeted, and it was all because of me. I immediately dialed Su Wan's number. It rang for a long time before she finally picked up. Her voice sounded incredibly exhausted. "Hey Ching, I'm in a meeting right now. Keep it short." I rushed to ask, "How are you holding up?" "Did he?" Su Wan cut me off. Forcing a light-hearted tone, she said, "I'm fine. It's just normal corporate maneuvering. You really don't need to worry. I can handle it. Just focus on getting your hotel built. That's the best way you can support me. People like Ji Bo Chong only care about profits. As long as your project succeeds, it proves my initial judgment was right all along. And those old geezers on the bank's board won't have a word to say." I knew she was just trying to comfort me. Ji Bo Chong was using his massive capital to pressure the entire bank. His goal? To force them into making Su Wan the scapegoat for approving the loan. I whispered into the phone, "Su Wan, I'm so sorry." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then she reassured me, "We're friends, Ching. Me helping you wasn't just an investment. It was built on trust. So stop overthinking it, just stick to your plan. And remember, you have to win, for all of us to win. I have to go now. We'll talk later." After hanging up, those two words echoed in my mind. Friend, trust. They weighed on my chest like a ton of bricks. I absolutely could not lose. Not just for my hotel, but for Su Wan's career, and Chen Mo's unwavering trust. When I got back to the site, Uncle Zhao and the guys were anxiously waiting for the news. They immediately crowded around. "Hey Ching, what did the folks from China Southern say?" I pushed all my worries aside and put on a huge smile. "They loved it," I announced. "They're going to sign the letter of intent with us." The whole site erupted into cheers. "Hell yeah, that's amazing." All the blood, sweat, and tears over the past few days had finally paid off. Looking at their genuine, hard-working smiles, I announced right then and there, "Everyone who pushed through this crunch time, your pay is doubled this month." And to the airport crew who came out to help, you're all getting a 1,000 yuan bonus. The very next day, the 1 million in investment funds hit my account. At the exact same time, China Southern's legal team sent over the signed and stamped scanned copy of the letter of intent, with China Southern's official backing. All those rumors about my sketchy background and illegal construction completely fell apart. I immediately called Director Chin Shou. Director Chin, I want to host a press conference, under the name of the Airport Command Center." Chin Shou was caught off guard. "A press conference? Regarding what exactly?" I quickly explained, "The official unveiling of the Cloud Hotel, along with the future outlook of our three-way partnership with the airport and China Southern. I want to invite every major media outlet in the city. Hell, even the whole province. I want all the reporters here, so I can announce it right to everyone's face." Explain the whole story behind building the hotel clearly, and also bring out the letter of intent for cooperation with China Southern Airlines. Along with all the legal documents, right out in the open. Director Chin immediately caught on to my plan. You want to use their own momentum against them? And completely flip the public opinion. I answered him, emphasizing every single word, yes. I'm done playing hide and seek with them. I'm putting all my cards on the table. Since they want to make me famous, then I'll give them a show and become absolutely, undeniably famous. Director Chin fell silent on the other end of the line for a long while. This was a huge gamble for him, too. If anything went wrong at the press conference, he would have to take the fall for it. Finally, he made up his mind and said, all right, I've got your back. The airport project needs a partner exactly like you. And Anning Town's development needs this kind of fresh energy. Leave the reporters to me, I'll make the calls. We'll use the conference room at the airport command center for the venue. Let's schedule it for 3 days from now. Fu Ching, let's pull off a brilliant comeback together. Those 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Director Chin's connections were incredibly vast. He managed to invite almost every single prominent media outlet in the city. At 10 in the morning, the press conference officially kicked off. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the podium. Friends from the media, distinguished guests, hello everyone. My name is Fu Ching, and I am the founder of the Cloud Hotel. I know that recently, there have been a lot of rumors circulating online about me, and this hotel of mine. Some say I'm mysterious, some say my funding comes from shady sources, and some even call my building a toxic tumor right next to the airport. Standing here today, I just want to tell you all, none of that is true. I'm just an ordinary guy from Anning Town. My parents passed away when I was young, and left me this old house, when the entire town was facing demolition, and my house was the only one excluded from the zoning area. I didn't cry or throw a fit. I just felt that destiny keeping me here must have its own reasons. I took out every last penny of the inheritance my parents left me, and got a loan of 300,000 from the bank. Scraping together 500,000 in startup capital, I tore the old place down and rebuilt it. I wanted to transform it from an abandoned old house into a hotel that could serve the new airport. I named it Cloud, simply hoping that it could be just like an airplane, soaring straight up into the clouds, towards a higher, brighter future. My voice was incredibly calm. I wasn't trying to pull at anyone's heartstrings. I was simply stating a fact, a story about how a young man relied entirely on his own strength to protect his home and chase down his dreams. The audience gradually quieted down. A lot of reporters actually put down their pens, quietly listening as I continued. Every single penny of my funding is completely clean. The friend from the bank who secured my loan is currently, simply because of her professionalism and integrity, suffering from completely unjust accusations. I glanced down at Su Wan in the audience. She was sitting quietly in an inconspicuous corner, her eyes looking a little red. Every single step of my construction process was strictly legal and compliant. The person who supervised the quality of my project was Director Chin from the airport command center. Director Chin nodded at me, his eyes brimming with encouragement. And my future is absolutely not some toxic tumor. Because I've already reached a preliminary strategic partnership with manager Chen Mo from China Southern Airlines. I turned around and pointed at the backdrop behind me, straight at that letter of intent for cooperation proudly displayed on the wall. In the future, this place will become the coziest haven for the China Southern Airlines crew. As soon as I finished speaking, the whole room instantly erupted. An official partnership with China Southern Airlines. This was absolutely the biggest news of the day. Faced with this document, all the doubts suddenly seemed incredibly weak. I pointed at Uncle Zhao and Foreman Zhang in the front row, and they looked back at me with pride. I continued, I don't have some mysterious background. I just have a heart that wants to do something good for my hometown. What keeps me going is this land behind me that I love so much. It's the leaders at every level who support me, the partners who trust me, and the brothers who bleed and sweat right alongside me. After that, the press conference moved to the Q&A session. A male reporter stood up and asked a very sharp question. Mr. Fu, you just mentioned that your friend at the bank is being targeted because of you. As far as I know, recently, a company called Wayu Capital has been launching a hostile takeover of the bank your friend works for. And those online blogs smearing your name? They've got Wayu Capital pulling the strings behind the scenes too. Do you believe this is a malicious business attack aimed directly at you? Every single eye in the room locked onto me. I stayed silent for a moment, then answered loud and clear. There are two kinds of people in this world. One kind sees value, and will do whatever it takes to create and protect it. The other kind sees value, and only thinks about plundering it, destroying it, and taking it for themselves. We welcome all creators, but to those greedy predators, our doors will always be firmly shut. I truly believe that out in the daylight, all these shady schemes will eventually have nowhere to hide. The moment I finished, thunderous applause roared through the room. By that afternoon, the news about Cloud Hotel was plastered all over the front pages of every local media outlet. My image completely flipped from a controversial holdout to a 25-year-old, independent, resilient guy who dares to stand up against injustice, who says no to an unfair fate and ruthless capital. But just the very next day after the press conference, trouble came knocking. In the morning, Uncle Zhao came running to me in a total panic, shouting, "Hey Ching, this is bad. The hotel's water has been cut off." My heart sank. I asked, "What's going on? Didn't we pay the water bill on time?" Uncle Zhao immediately replied, "We paid it. But they claim the main pipeline for our area needs a week of maintenance." This was a classic, dirty trick used by local thugs. Without water, the final renovations for the hotel would have to come to a dead stop. And what was even worse, the gas station couldn't stay open either. My mind instantly went to that absolute scumbag. But before I even had the chance to call him, someone I completely didn't expect showed up at my door. He introduced himself. "My name is Wang Weiguo. I used to be the chairman of the Hongtu Group." The name Hongtu Group sounded pretty familiar. I think they were a really famous local real estate company back in the day. But a few years ago, I heard their cash flow dried up, and they went bankrupt practically overnight. Wang Weiguo looked at me with a really complicated look in his eyes. "I came here today to tell you something. Ji Bochang, the boss of Wayu Capital who pushed you to the brink, is the exact same guy who ruined me with those identical dirty tricks." I immediately realized the man standing in front of me wasn't an enemy. He was my natural ally. I asked curiously, "Chairman Wang, what exactly happened?" Wang Weiguo fell right into his painful memories. "I was developing a massive commercial complex, just like you are doing now, fixing up the construction site and developing the whole street. I poured my entire life savings into it. But right when the project was about to be finished, Ji Bochang showed up. Then, he appeared acting like some kind of savior, and for less than 30% of the price, he bought out all my shares in that almost completed project. I went from a billionaire to a completely broke man, buried in debt." Wang Weiguo's story was incredibly similar to everything I was going through right now. Except his ending was way more tragic than mine. Wang Weiguo reached right into his briefcase. He pulled out a thick stack of documents and said, "All these years, I've been collecting evidence of his crimes. Ji Bochang is ruthless, but he's way too arrogant. He left a trail behind his shady deals. They were all processed through a shell company registered overseas. 10.09, 15.00, 10.00. He thought he could get away with it completely unnoticed. 10.00. But the guy who helped him pull it all off back then is now my mole working right beside him. Here's the evidence of his tax evasion. Trust products, 22,070. There are records of his illegal asset transfers. Hongjing Trust, 24,000, 27,000. 27.66. Trust products. And here is evidence of him bribing officials, 22.070. Any single one of these is enough to ruin him forever. I looked at that stack of documents, and my breathing grew heavy. These weren't just documents. This was clearly a deadly blade meant to strike Ji Bochang right in the heart. I urgently asked, "Mr. Wang, Chairman Wang, if you have all this, why didn't you blow the whistle?" Wang Weiguo shook his head bitterly and replied, "It's no use. I tried, but Ji Bochang's connections are way too powerful. A bankrupt old man like me can't make any waves at all. Whenever I handed these materials in, they just vanished into thin air." Saying that, he looked up. Staring at me with burning eyes, he said, "But you are different. You have the airport project and Southern Airlines standing right behind you. You have a level of public attention that they don't have. You have an influence they absolutely cannot ignore. This blade in my hands is just a piece of scrap metal. But in your hands, it might just be able to chop off the head of the evil dragon." I took that heavy stack of documents, my hands trembling slightly. I finally understood. Wang Weiguo wasn't here to ask for my help. He was here to entrust me with his absolute last hope for revenge. Just then, Qin Shou called me on the phone. I already know about the water shut off. I just touched base with the city leaders. The mayor is furious, and is personally looking into this matter. Don't worry, in half an hour at most, both water and electricity will be back to normal. Also, the city's disciplinary inspection team has already entered Anning Town. The very first person they are going to interrogate is Zheng Daqin. Clutching the documents in my hand, listening to Qin Shou's voice on the phone, I was overwhelmed with emotions. I knew that the exact moment to fight back had arrived. I raised my head, my gaze absolutely determined, and made a solemn promise. I'll take this blade. I promise you, justice might be late, but it will never be absent. News of the city's anti-corruption team moving into Anning Town spread even faster than the water shut-off notice. Zheng Daqin was called in for questioning for 5 solid hours. By the time he came out, his arrogant, untouchable attitude was completely wiped out. Half an hour later, clear tap water was finally flowing out of the faucets at my construction site again. At night, I locked myself in my office, taking the documents Wang Weiguo gave me, and reading them carefully over and over again. Ji Bochang's crimes were far more shocking than I ever imagined. Tax evasion, illegally transferring assets, bribery. Every single charge was enough to make that bastard rot in jail for life. But I knew, just handing this file over to the investigators wouldn't be enough. Ji Bochang's roots ran way too deep. His web of connections was too complicated. I had to use a method that would leave him absolutely no room to struggle. An undeniable way to nail him to the cross for good. So, I called Su Wan and said, Su Wan, I need you to help me contact an absolutely reliable provincial media outlet, one with serious influence. Su Wan immediately understood what I was getting at. She asked, you want to blow this wide open? I stared out the window. Zheng Daqin's office building was pitch black in the night. I replied, no, I'm going to put him on trial. A producer from the provincial TV station's Focus Tracker show. He was my senior back in college. He's an upright guy, and he absolutely hates the shady dealings of the capital market. Their show is the highest-rated in-depth investigative program in the entire province. Anyone they set their sights on ends up ruined. I confirmed firmly, he's our guy. I pulled out a single sheet of paper from that thick stack of files. It was a clear record of Ji Bochang using an overseas shell company, manipulating stock prices, number 25, making illegal profits of nearly 100 million yuan. I didn't reveal all my trump cards at once. 25. To deal with an old fox like Ji Bochang, I had to peel back his disguise layer by layer, just like an onion. Make him feel that endless torture and pure terror. I used an encrypted email to send this file over to that reporter. To that reporter, I didn't sign my name. I only wrote one sentence at the very end of the email. This is just the beginning. 2 days later, the provincial TV station's Focus Tracker program aired right on time. This episode's title was extremely hard-hitting. The tens of billions capital black market. Ji Bochang's hidden wealth empire, 7,000. Using detailed data and anonymous expert interviews, they peeled apart the evidence I provided, piece by piece, presenting it crystal clear right in front of millions of viewers across the province. The host questioned with an icy tone, why has our capital market become a lawless ATM for certain individuals? Why has our regulatory system turned a blind eye to such blatant illegal behavior? I knew right then, Ji Bochang's doomsday had begun. That very night, Huayu Capital's official website crashed from the flood of angry investors. It wasn't over yet. The next day, Huayu Capital's stock hit the limit down immediately at the opening bell. Massive sell orders poured down like a waterfall across my Dell screen, completely blocking off any chance of escape. Ji Bochang's phone was blowing up, bombarded with interrogations, curses, investors pulling out, and partners demanding to cancel contracts. The business empire he had painstakingly built for years started showing real signs of collapsing after just one short weekend, and the final straw that broke the camel's back came from Anning Town. On his third day of isolated investigation, Zheng Daqin finally couldn't handle the pressure anymore. He ratted out Ji Bochang, confessing exactly how he conspired with him to swallow up my land, including how much dirty money he took from him, and how many shady deals he pulled off for him. The investigation team quickly tracked it all down. That Anning Airport Service Company he co-founded with Ji Bochang's younger brother. After raking in a massive fortune, they were officially handed over to the authorities. That night, the gas station had closed up early. All the workers had headed back to their dorms. Because I needed to double-check a new batch of renovation materials. Ledger, I stayed behind in the office. Uncle Zhao was worried about leaving me all alone, so he stayed back to keep me company. Looking out at the pouring rain, Uncle Zhao said with a worried tone, "Ah Ching, this weather feels completely off. I'm afraid something bad is gonna happen." I was also feeling inexplicably restless. Just then, the office door was violently kicked open. A security guard on the night shift rushed in, shouting in absolute terror, "Boss! Captain Zhao, we're in trouble. A whole gang just showed up. They're all armed to the teeth, smashing everything in sight, and attacking everyone they see. We can't hold them back." Hearing this, Uncle Zhao instantly sprang to his feet, grabbed a shovel from the corner, and roared, "The nerve of those bastards to come looking for a death wish." My heart sank, but I quickly forced myself to stay calm. Immediately instructed him, "Uncle Zhao, call the cops." The guard replied, trembling, "It's too late, they already smashed all our phones to pieces. Looks like they want to completely wipe out the entire construction site." I immediately realized that Ji Bochang was playing for keeps this time. These weren't just some street thugs. They were professional enforcers. Their sole purpose was to cause maximum destruction and trigger the most catastrophic safety incident possible. Once the site was destroyed, or if lives were lost, my hotel project would be doomed beyond salvation. I made a split-second decision, "Uncle Zhao, you lead the men to hold down the main gate. Don't fight them head-on. Just stall them." "Ah Ching, what about you?" "I'm going to get back up." I sprinted outside, and from the direction of the hotel building came the ear-piercing sounds of smashing and arrogant shouting. Over a dozen shadowy figures armed with blades and steel pipes were frantically destroying the glass facade I had just finished installing. Suddenly, a blinding set of headlights flashed right behind me. A black van with no license plates was barreling straight towards me. They were trying to run me over. My mind went completely blank. In that split second, Foreman Zhang lunged out of nowhere, shoving me out of the way. "Run, boss." Foreman Zhang's body flew through the air like a broken ragdoll. As he took the brutal impact, the van didn't even hit the brakes. It just sped up and vanished into the rainy night. I let out a blood-curdling scream, stumbling and crawling my way over to him. "Brother Zhang." He looked at me weakly, yet still managed to force a smile. "Hurry, get out of here." My tears mixed with the pouring rain, completely blurring my vision. "I can't leave. If I run away now, what will happen to Uncle Zhao and the others? If I leave, Brother Zhang's sacrifice would be for nothing." An unprecedented surge of blinding rage and vengeance erupted frantically from the very bottom of my heart. I slowly lifted my head, glaring at those thugs who were still trashing the place. My eyes were as bone-chilling as Antarctic ice. I didn't get into my own car. Instead, I turned around. I rushed toward the idle bulldozer in the corner of the construction site. Foreman Zhang had already taught me how to drive this big guy. I started it up. The steel beast awakened in the rainy night, letting out a deafening roar. All the thugs were terrified by the sudden booming sound. I drove the bulldozer, rolling forward slowly, but with an unstoppable, crushing presence. One thug screamed in terror, "Maniac! He is a maniac!" Everyone was scared out of their wits, scattering in all directions. I didn't go after them. Right at that moment, over a dozen police cars, their red and blue lights flashing, tore through the rainy night and came howling in. Qin Shou and Su Wan rushed out of the very first car. They saw Foreman Zhang lying in a pool of blood. They saw the absolute mess on the ground. And they saw me, sitting in the cab of the bulldozer. Su Wan ran right up to the cab, her voice totally trembling. "Ah Ching, are you okay? Get down from there, hurry." I jumped down from the high cab. "Su Wan, they tried to kill me." Su Wan hugged me so tightly, her voice choking up with tears. I know, it is okay now. It is all over, but I knew it was not over. Between Ji Bochang and me, starting tonight, it is a fight to the death. Foreman Zhang was rushed to the best hospital in the city. The doctor said he had lost way too much blood, with a fractured left leg that needed immediate surgery. But his life was not in danger. I stood guard in the hospital corridor, my mind constantly replaying the scene of Foreman Zhang getting hit and sent flying. Su Wan took off her own coat and draped it over my shoulders, while Chin Shou stood to the side, constantly making phone calls. Manager Chen Mo found out too. He pulled strings with Southern Airlines to put pressure on the provincial government, demanding a thorough investigation and zero leniency. Ji Bocheng's heavy blow tonight, even though it cost me a painful price, also completely shattered all the rules and unspoken agreements. He had made an enemy out of everyone. The police launched an overnight operation. Those dozen or so violent thugs were quickly caught at various intersections leading out of the city. The untracked van that hit Foreman Zhang was also found in an abandoned quarry. The interrogations went incredibly smoothly. Faced with rock-solid evidence and massive pressure, those desperate criminals quickly sold out their boss. It was Ji Bocheng's most trusted assistant, and the guy who handled all his dirty work. When the cops showed up at his door, that assistant chose to end his own life to escape justice. He thought he could escape unscathed this way, but he underestimated me way too much, and he greatly underestimated the files Wang Weiguo had given me. I walked up to Su Wan and Chin Shou and said, "Su Wan, help me contact that producer from Focus Tracker. Chin Shou, help me set up a meeting with the head of the Municipal Disciplinary Committee." The very next morning, I made 2 copies of the complete documents Wang Weiguo had given me. One copy, I personally handed over to the provincial TV station's Focus Tracker program. The other copy, I gave to the top official at the Municipal Disciplinary Committee. Right after that, a massive anti-corruption storm sweeping through the financial and political sectors of the entire province officially kicked off. The Focus Tracker team spent 1 full week producing a 1-hour special report. Very quickly, Ji Bocheng's protective umbrella was completely uprooted, leaving him with zero protection. The Tax Bureau, the Securities Commission, and the police all swooped in at once. Every single asset under Ji Bocheng's name was completely frozen. Huayu Capital was entirely shut down. The once almighty financial empire collapsed and vanished into thin air in just a matter of days. When the dust finally settled, everyone who had ever stood by me gathered around. I looked out at the distance, at the bustling, newly opened Anning International Airport. I didn't give some passionate, grand speech. I simply gave them a deep, heartfelt bow. "Thank you, everyone. Up above the clouds, there's a place for me, and a place for all of you." The hotel's top floor still had that same viewing terrace. Only now, it had become the most luxurious and breathtaking view in all of Anning Town. Su Wan walked over and handed me a glass of champagne. She teased me with a warm smile. "Look at you, like a real big shot now. Ah Ching, do you realize? You've done so much more than just build a hotel. You've completely changed this town. And you've changed so many lives." I smiled, looking out at my brilliantly lit hotel, packed with guests. Deep down, I knew that the once abandoned orphan had finally found his true home. Ji Bocheng's successor was a middle-aged official transferred straight from the city, named Zhao Fuming. As a young entrepreneur representative, I attended the Future Development Seminar for Anning Town. The meeting lasted all morning. At the table, Zhao Fuming didn't hold back his praise for me. "Mr. Fu's Cloud Hotel has set an incredible standard for us all. He proved that right here in Anning Town, as long as you have the vision and the guts, you can absolutely build something world-class. All of our upcoming plans need to look up to the Cloud Hotel as our benchmark. We are going to turn this place into a hotspot for investors, and a true home where all top talent will want to stay." After the meeting, Zhao Fuming shook my hand warmly and said, "Mr. Fu, the town let you down in the past, but moving forward, we really need your leadership. If there's ever anything you need help with, just say the word. We will support you all the way." I saw the genuine spark in his eyes, and I knew that a bright new era had truly begun for Anning Town. The hotel's business was booming. Aside from Southern Airlines, flight crews from other airlines started coming over, drawn by our reputation. They all wanted to partner with us. Soon, all sorts of business conferences and industry forums chose to host their events at my hotel. Going to the cloud for a meeting became the newest trend in the city's business circles. September 13th that summer, the gas station I built from the ground up hadn't been forgotten, either. I gave it a massive upgrade, transforming it into a semi-open food court. It still kept its super affordable prices and that lively, down-to-earth street vibe. It became the absolute favorite late-night food spot for the airport ground crew and the local residents. Uncle Zhao, I officially hired him as the hotel's director of engineering. He took charge of all facility maintenance. The old crew became the technical backbone across all departments. Every single one of them put on a crisp, brand new uniform, officially becoming staff at a 5-star hotel. Wang Weiguo came to visit me too. The moment he saw me, he gave me a deep, respectful bow. "Mr. Fu, thank you. You gave me a second chance at life." I quickly helped him up. "Uncle Wang, you're giving me far too much credit. I only did what I had to do. If it wasn't for that knife you gave me, I'd never have been able to slice through the darkness." He told me he was going to use the money he got back to set up a legal aid fund, specifically to help entrepreneurs who, just like him and me, have been bullied by big corporations. He patted me on the shoulder, smiled warmly, and said, "I just don't have the fight in me anymore, but from here on out, this world belongs to you young folks." I walked him out of the hotel, and watched his back, no longer hunched, but standing tall again, fade into the crowd. I knew right then that an old era had finally come to an end. The hotel was running like clockwork, and I finally had a little time to myself. The very first thing I did was transfer Foreman Zhang from the general ward into the absolute best VIP rehab center at the city hospital. I covered every single penny of the cost. When I went in to see him, he was resting in bed. The moment he saw me walk in, he got so excited he almost bolted upright. "Boss Fu," he said, "what are you doing here? It's just a little scratch. You didn't have to come all the way down here yourself." I set a bouquet of flowers on his nightstand and said, "Brother Zhang, this is way more than a scratch. You literally risked your life for me." The doctor said, "Your leg is healing up nicely, but you're still gonna need a good chunk of time for rehab. You just focus on resting up here. Don't worry about a single thing. Your paychecks will keep coming, and I'm covering all your medical bills." This tough guy from the north, who never complained about a single thing, choked up like a kid right then. "Boss Fu," he sniffled, "it was all worth it." I gave his shoulder a gentle pat. "From now on, it's my turn to protect our home." After leaving the hospital, I got a call from Su Wan. The Cloud Hotel loan project she managed had made massive waves at the headquarters. So, instead of getting disciplined, she got an exceptional promotion. She was now the youngest branch manager in the entire history of their bank. She laughed over the phone and asked, "Mr. Fu, are you free tonight? I'd love to take you out to dinner." "Oh, and where are you taking me?" "Right at your Cloud Hotel. In the presidential suite." That evening, I had the kitchen whip up their most exquisite dinner and send it up to the penthouse suite. That was the room I specifically set aside just for her. It was never open to the public. From the balcony up there, you could take in the entire sparkling skyline of the new airport city. When Su Wan saw me walk in, she gave me a warm smile and said, "The view from up here really is the absolute best." I chuckled, "Well, obviously, just look at whose turf you're on. We didn't talk about work. And we didn't bring up any of the crazy drama from our past. We just hung out like two old friends catching up, drinking tea and shooting the breeze." But then, she looked at me dead serious and said, "Ah Ching. Do you remember? Back when you first decided to build this place, I told you that once you finally opened up, you owed me a free presidential suite for life." I nodded at the memory. "Well, I kept my promise." Su Wan let out a self-deprecating little laugh and said, "Honestly, I was totally joking back then. I thought you had completely lost your mind. Opening a hotel with 500,000, right on top of a ruin that everyone else was running away from? I seriously never thought you'd actually pull it off. The only reason I helped you was because I didn't want to see you fail too miserably. Honestly, I was already prepared, ready to help you bear some of the losses." I listened quietly. Without saying a word, she continued, "You turned an impossible dream into reality. You're far more amazing than I ever imagined." She stood up and walked over to me. "So, I want to change my request today. I don't want your presidential suite anymore." I looked up, gazing into her face that was so close to mine, my heart beating a little faster. "Then, what do you want?" She didn't answer, just slowly leaned in and gave me a kiss. Then she held me tight, her voice trembling with a hint of hoarseness. "A Ching, I want you. What I want, is you." My tears fell again without warning. I smiled, nodded hard, and said, "Okay." That night, we talked a lot about our visions for the future. In the blink of an eye, it was the Anning International Airport's 2-year anniversary of operations, and also the 2-year anniversary celebration of the Cloud Hotel. Business elites, government officials, and various leaders all gathered together. I wore a custom-tailored black suit, walking arm in arm with Su Wan. standing at the entrance of the banquet hall, welcoming every guest who arrived. Having become the CEO of the Cloud Group, she helped me handle all the complex business affairs, letting me focus more on the group's strategic development. Chin Shou came too. He was now the director of the management committee for the airport New City, becoming the true top boss of this new city. He saw me and smiled. "Mr. Fu, you're the biggest god of wealth in our new city now." Chen Mo also flew in especially from Guangzhou. He was already the vice president of Southern Airlines. As soon as he saw me, he gave me a passionate hug. "Fu Cheng, the most successful investment I've made in my whole life was 2 years ago on that rooftop. Investing that 1 million in you." Uncle Zhao and Foreman Zhang were also standing behind me. One was the director of the engineering department, and the other was the director of security. After the banquet started, as the host, I walked up to the main stage. 2 years ago, I stood right here, with nothing but ruins beneath my feet. I once thought I had been abandoned by the whole world. But today, I stand here, standing on the most prosperous heart of the entire airport New City. What I want to say is, what determines our value is never which line we get drawn outside of, but rather where we choose to redraw our very own starting line. If the world abandons you, you can choose to win the world back. My speech was short, but it won the most enthusiastic applause from the entire crowd. Before the banquet even ended, I took Su Wan's hand, and we quietly slipped out. We changed into casual clothes, strolling through the park like two ordinary lovers. There were kids laughing and playing in the park, and old folks taking walks and exercising. I saw a familiar figure. Lee. She was taking her little grandson to play on the slide. She saw me too, her expression a bit awkward and uneasy. You're a really big boss now. Before, I used to run my mouth too much back then. Please don't take it to heart. I shook my head, not minding at all. It's all in the past. Just then, his little grandson ran over, looking at me curiously. Auntie Lee quickly told him, "He's the pride of our new city. The vice president of the Cloud Hotel. When you grow up, you need to be just as successful as your Uncle Fu." I just smiled, and pulled a piece of candy from my pocket, handing it to the little boy. Then, we kept walking. We strolled over to where my old family home used to be. Nowadays, it's become a part of the hotel. A beautiful outdoor garden. Su Wan and I cuddled up together on one of the benches. In the distance, a massive passenger jet was slowly touching down on the runway. Its lights streaked across the night sky like a shooting star. Suddenly, Su Wan asked, "Ah Cheng, have you ever regretted it?" Watching that plane land so smoothly, and looking out at the thousands of warm lights glowing in the distance, I looked at the love of my life right beside me, and whispered,